The Oath of the Stars. Part 1. The Grandfather. The stars had always been a promise. For thousands of years, human beings looked up at the night sky and wondered. They drew pictures of the constellations, told stories about gods and monsters living in the dark between the lights. They built telescopes. They launched satellites. They walked on the moon. They sent robots to Mars and probes to the edges of their solar system. And still, the stars were just that, a promise. A door that no one had yet opened, that changed in the year 2287. His name was Commander Elias Voss, though most people just called him Eli. He was 52 years old, gray at the temples, with deep-set brown eyes that always seemed to be looking at something far away, even when he was staring at the floor. He had spent 30 years in the United Earth Science Fleet, rising from a junior navigation officer to the commander of the Pathfinder, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. The Pathfinder was not a warship. It carried no weapons, no soldiers, no bombs. It was, as its name suggested, a ship built purely to explore. Its crew of 220 scientists, engineers, pilots, and medical officers had been hand-selected from every nation on Earth. Their mission: travel beyond the solar system, follow the faint radio signal that had been detected 3 years earlier from a region of space near the star cluster designated HR 7143, and find out what or who had sent it. Eli stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder as the blue marble of Earth shrank behind them and finally disappeared into the black. He felt no sadness, only the particular quiet thrill of the unknown. "Commander," said his first officer, Lieutenant Maya Osei, a sharp-minded woman from Accra who never seemed to sleep and always seemed to know exactly what you were thinking before you said it. "We are past the orbital boundary. Navigation confirms we are on course for HR 7143. Time to destination. At current speed, approximately 14 months. Eli nodded. 14 months through the dark. Through nothing. Through the longest silence any human being had ever experienced. "Then let's get to work," he said. The first 3 months were uneventful. The crew settled into routines. Scientists ran experiments. Engineers monitored systems. People fell in love, had arguments, made up, played cards, told stories, and stared out of the observation windows at the impossible depth of space. The Pathfinder hummed along through the void like a heartbeat. It was during the 4th month that the first strange thing happened. Dr. Priya Nair, the ship's chief astrophysicist, came to Eli's quarters at 2 in the morning, looking like she had seen a ghost, which, in a way, she had. "The signal," she said, without preamble. "It's changed." Eli was awake immediately. Changed how? When we detected it from Earth, it was a repeating pattern. Same sequence, over and over, like a beacon. For the last 6 hours, it has been responding to us. The room was quiet for a long moment. "Responding to us," Eli repeated. "Our ship's standard identification broadcast. The one we send automatically, so any monitoring systems know we're a science vessel. The signal from HR 7143 is now mimicking pieces of it. Not exactly, but close enough that it can't be a coincidence." Eli stared at the waveform on the display. "You're saying whatever is out there knows we're coming." "Yes, Commander. I'm saying whatever is out there has been watching us since we left Earth." By month 7, they had made contact. Not face to face, not yet, but through the signal itself. Dr. Nair and her team had developed a rudimentary translation protocol using mathematics as a shared language. Patterns of prime numbers, geometric sequences, simple equations. The entity, or entities, at HR 7143 were extraordinarily intelligent. Within days of the first mathematical exchange, they had advanced far beyond simple numbers and were attempting something that resembled actual language. The crew of the Pathfinder named them the Velhari. No one could say exactly why. It was Dr. Nair who said it first during a briefing. The Velhari signal is doing something new, and the name simply stuck. It felt right. Ancient, somehow. Like a word that had always existed but had simply been waiting to be used. They are asking us something, Dr. Nair told Eli during one of their daily translation sessions, 10 months into the voyage. The same sequence repeated many times. I believe it's a question. What are they asking? She looked at her screen for a long moment. Why are you coming? Eli thought about that for a long time before he gave his answer, which Dr. Nair carefully encoded back into the signal and sent forward into the dark. We are coming because we want to know you. The response came back within hours, faster than it should have, given the distance, which told Eli that the Velhari understood the laws of physics in ways that humanity did not yet grasp. The response, when translated, was 3 words. Then come safely. They were 11 months into the journey when the Pathfinder died. It was not a dramatic death. No explosion, no dramatic impact from a meteor. The ship simply began to fail. Quietly, system by system, like a body shutting down organ by organ. The engineering team traced it to a form of radiation they had never encountered before, a dense, invisible field that permeated a region of space. They had no way of knowing to avoid because it did not show up on any of their instruments. By the time the sensors detected it, they were already deep inside it. The field was slowly dissolving the molecular bonds in every synthetic material on the ship. How long? Eli asked Chief Engineer Thomas Ruiz, a stocky, unflappable man from Buenos Aires who had spent his career solving impossible problems and looked, for the first time in Eli's memory, genuinely frightened. At current rate of deterioration, Ruiz didn't look up from his console. 48 hours before life support fails completely. The ship was 11 months from Earth. There was no rescue coming. There was no way to turn back. They no longer had enough power to reverse course, and even if they did, the journey home would take longer than they had left to live. Eli called a meeting of the senior staff and laid it out plainly. He had never believed in pretending a situation was better than it was. We have 2 options, he said. We can attempt to reduce power consumption to every non-essential system and try to extend our survival window. Or we can send a final communication to Earth, document everything we've learned, and make peace with our situation. The room was very quiet. It was Maya Ose who spoke first. There's a 3rd option. Everyone looked at her. We tell the Velhari what's happening. The message they sent was simple, honest, direct. We are dying. Our ship is failing. We cannot go home. If you are who we believe you are, if the warmth in your words is real, please help us. They did not expect a response quickly. The Velhari were still 3 months away at the Pathfinder's original speed, but the response came in 4 hours, and it was not a message. It was a ship. Nothing in any human being's imagination, no science fiction story, no artist's rendering, no computer-generated simulation, had prepared them for the sight of a Velhari vessel emerging from faster-than-light travel. It did not arrive. It became present. One moment, the space ahead of them was empty. The next, There was a vessel the size of a small moon sitting 100 kilometers off their bow, its surface alive with patterns of soft blue-white light that moved like breathing, like something alive. The crew of the Pathfinder stood at every window and observation port, silent and stunned. Some people cried, some laughed, some simply stood with their hands over their mouths, unable to process what their eyes were telling them. Eli stood on the bridge and watched the light move across the alien hull and felt not fear, not amazement, but something much simpler and much older. Gratitude. A beam of pale blue energy reached out from the Valhari ship and enveloped the Pathfinder entirely. The vibration that had been growing through the hull for 2 days, the sound of the ship slowly dying, stopped. Instruments that had gone dark flickered back to life. Systems that had been failing came online, one by one, like stars appearing at dusk. Dr. Nayer's voice came over the intercom, hushed and reverent. "Commander, they're repairing us. From the outside, they're healing the ship." And then the signal came. The translated words appeared on Eli's screen slowly, one at a time, as though each word carried weight. "You came because you wanted to know us. We have watched you for a long time, Elias Voss. We know what you are made of. We know what your kind can become. But kindness between civilizations must be earned, not by payment, not by force, by pledge. We ask one thing in return for saving your ship and your people. Not now, perhaps not for a long time, but one day, when we call upon your civilization, you will answer. You will bring your strength. You will not ask the reason until after. You will simply come. This is the oath of the stars. It has been given between civilizations for longer than your sun has burned. Will your people make this pledge?" Eli sat with those words for a long time. He thought about the 220 people on his ship. He thought about the 8 billion people on Earth who had no idea this moment was happening. He thought about every generation that had not yet been born, who would one day have to live with whatever he decided in the next few minutes. He had no authority to make a pledge on behalf of all of humanity. He knew that. He was a science officer, not a politician, not a world leader. He had not been sent out here to make treaties, but the ship was dying, and the Valhari were waiting. He typed his response slowly, with the weight of history pressing down on every letter. "We make this pledge, in the name of the people of Earth, and all who come after them. When you call, we will answer." The blue light around the Pathfinder pulsed once, warm, almost tender, and the Valhari ship vanished as quietly as it had come. Eli sat alone on the bridge for a long time after that. He thought about what he had just done, the promise he had just made, not for himself, not for his crew, but for every human being who would ever live. Children not yet born, grandchildren of grandchildren of grandchildren, people in centuries he would never see, living in worlds he could not imagine, who would one day wake up to a message they had never asked for, calling in a debt they had never agreed to pay. He pulled out his personal recorder and pressed play. "I don't know if I did the right thing," he said quietly, his voice low so no one passing in the corridor would hear. "I know I don't have the authority. I know I made a promise no one person should be able to make. But I looked at that ship. I looked at the light moving across that hull like something alive. And I thought about everything we are. Everything we've done to each other. Everything we've been capable of when we're at our worst, and the extraordinary things we've been capable of when we're at our best." He paused for a long moment, and I thought, If there are beings out there willing to save 220 strangers for nothing more than a promise of future help, then I want to be the kind of species that keeps that promise, whatever it costs. He clicked off the recorder and looked out at the stars, the same stars that had always been a promise. I want us to be worth saving, he said to no one. The Pathfinder returned to Earth 14 months later. Commander Elias Voss filed his official report. He gave his testimony before the United Earth Science Committee and retired from active service 3 years afterward. He lived to the age of 81, long enough to see the first permanent colony established on Mars, long enough to watch humanity take its first real steps among the stars he had spent his life reaching for. He never heard from the Velhari again. Neither did his children, or their children, or theirs. The pledge he had made passed into history, taught in schools, debated in lecture halls, inscribed on a plaque in the lobby of Fleet headquarters. Some people called it the greatest act of courage in human history. Others called it the most reckless thing one man had ever done. Most people, as the decades stretched into a century and beyond, quietly assumed the Velhari were gone, that the pledge would never be called, that it was a beautiful story. Nothing more. They were wrong. 154 years after Commander Elias Voss typed those 11 words into a dying ship's communication console. When you call, we will answer. The call came, and his grandson answered it. End of part 1. Part 2. The grandson is coming soon. If this story moved you, please subscribe so you don't miss it.